What we're going to be doing is Kickstarting the next VR revolution. This is moderated by Solotko, International United Ministry. All future parties, if you see the Kickstarter video, it's probably this guy might have been behind a good chance. I'll pass it to you, son. Let's give a round of applause for welcome to the stage.
My name is Solotko. I've had the honor of being associated with a number of virtual reality, augmented reality companies and projects. I run a small company called All Future Parties where we incubate innovation. We'll talk a little bit about that today. I'm very interested in technology futures and the marketing of them. People refer to me as a very early marketer. We have a distinguished panel today, and we're going to let each of them be introduced. From Technical Haptics, we have Provancher. From Diplopia, we have James Blaha. We're going to be talking about these folks by the marquee product that they're recently involved in. We have Ben Lang of Renaud VR, and we have Renaud of Technolust. That's his latest project. What's that?
Blair, actually.
Blair! First sale of the day.
Apology accepted.
Apology accepted. Blair ran a fantastic Kickstarter, and what we're going to try to talk to you about is we have a mixed audience. We have people who are actually still interested in running the Kickstarters of the future of virtual reality. So we're going to try to plow through a little bit about how in the future you ought to run a Kickstarter. I'm going to get through some of the basics, and we'll open it up for broader discussion. I'm also going to talk about some of the areas of technology that we think are of interest in the future. VR is evolving quickly, and our audience is about to evolve very quickly. The audience for VR is about to move from a group of pioneers to a large group of gamers and people who are interested in virtual reality because it solves very specific and unique problems. This transformation is going to happen very quickly. Let's talk about Kickstarter 101. This is, from my experience, all about nailing the basics. This is my laundry list. I've had the honor of being associated with, I don't even know how many Kickstarters at this point, 10 or 15. These are some of the lessons. Random comments are allowed from the panel. Know thy audience and its size, or as I like to say, the audience is a thing. And we're going to see some evidence of that. Audiences don't happen at random. If you run the same project twice on Kickstarter, you see very similar profiles. The reason is because the audience is actually this physical thing that you are discovering through the Kickstarter. And if you mess up relative to the basic composition of that Kickstarter, you're dead. Feel the power of networks. I think we can all attest to the fact that online networks, in particular in the VR community, which is so tight and so strong, are really critical to making a Kickstarter sing. And the one thing I say is every Kickstarter has to have a theory of the Kickstarter. It's got to know how it's going to start. It needs to know who those first 10, 100, 1,000 backers are. And if you don't have your finger on them, you risk failure. You don't want to screw up your goal. And a lot of the Kickstarters I have spoken to or worked with often make that one mistake, is they made the wrong hypothesis about what their goal ought to be. It's usually because of the logic that went into determining it. I'm going to tell you the only thing that matters in determining your Kickstarter goal. One is, can you deliver for that amount of money as forecast over the life cycle right before you start to ship? And then the other is, how much money are you willing to walk away from? Because you're going to walk away from that number if you don't hit it. There's a difference between how much you think you're going to raise, how much you think it's going to take to ship it, and then what you should set your goal at. They're all distinct numbers. Maximize your average pledge. The most important thing a VR Kickstarter, in particular a software Kickstarter, can do is give people who love you an opportunity to give you more money. There are people who want to help you. You have to make it a one-click exercise to do it. have an awesome idea. If your ideas are awesome, people will back you. And there are so many things on Kickstarter that aren't awesome. They're too niche. You look at those not awesome things and don't be them. And then the other thing that's really important, this is a tricky one. People in marketing often refer to this position. You want to show people how your stuff is awesome for them. How are they going to use it? How are they going to like it? And that's the visual communication, the images, the video. That's probably the most important thing. You can capture their imagination. They say, oh, that's me, I'm doing that. Because if you don't do that, they're going to have trouble relating. And you can easily over-position a product and over-position it. You can make it try to cater to too narrow an audience. And then you say, oh, wait, that's not for me. But actually it is. You just said too much. Like being on a date, being in an interview. Get yes. That's all you need. Avoid project categories that categorically fail. VR categorically successes, so just don't mess it up. Look at similar projects, I'm going to show you that, and be a finisher or an innovator. There are projects that aren't very innovative on Kickstarter. This is just a great wearable from my friends at the Union, and all it does is hold your Oculus Rift cable, your headphone cable. The great thing about this project is they finished their Kickstarter about a month and a half ago. They shipped last week. They're finishers. They know how to build stuff. They know how to get it done. In VR, we see a lot of people who try to be innovators, and you got to be a good innovator. But if you're not an innovator and you're not a finisher, did I miss anything, guys? That's the basics. So we're going to talk about these things over the course of the panel discussion. We're going to look ahead and ask, what does it take in 12 and 18 months for a Kickstarter to be successful? Because a lot of people here are working on things that are pre-Kickstarter. So this is our list, so you know, all our shots. A little more on Kickstarter 101. These are two very interesting Kickstarters. It's running now. It ran over the course of 30 days. It had a terrible video. It only raised $55,000 of our $195,000 goal, and people just started to lose confidence it was ever going to get there. People are dumb. They get too anxious. They know when you're going to fail. So what I tell every Kickstarter is design your project to hit its goal a third of the way through. And if it can't, then restructure your Kickstarter, rethink your business model if you're doing something wrong. You need to hit your goal about a third of the way in, or people get scared. There's a Kickstarter I really liked that just ran, didn't do that. It's failed. Now, of course, they failed, but then they got brilliant. They learned from their mistakes. They reran their campaign. They created an amazing video. They jacked down their goal. They way up their average pledge by having better incentives. They only have lightweight press. It was an innovation. Sabertron, cool story. You see the profile here? Very similar, isn't it? But this time they're going to have a successful Kickstarter and they're going to have a great tail. What does this tell you? The audience is a thing. The audience matters. The audience is specific people. They funded it the first time and it came back. Now they worked to get it back. Those audiences, it's a real entity. And you're just trying to understand and unlock it. I'm going to talk through categories, and what I'd like to do is, let's bring in the panel as we do this. There are categories I like, and there are categories I don't like. And when I think very specifically about VR, I have an expansive sense of what that means, and we'll get into that in the discussion. But VR is not VR anymore. VR is now AR. VR is now immersive video. VR is converging with other use cases and the cloud and social all at once. That's what makes it awesome, and that's what makes it really hard going forward. And as young projects, if you bite off too much, it's too technically complex and you're dead. Now what's neat is we now have projects, things that would have been Kickstarters months ago are now raising $5 to $10 million. You've got a little more change, but the technical leap is bigger. What do you guys think about VR fashion?
I'll take that one, actually.
Please.
So for me, I've kind of been a lifelong gamer. In the last 5 years, maybe even more recently than that, we've seen in the gaming world this idea of microtransactions. These are small payments that gamers can make where you might get the game for free, but then you're encouraged in many ways through the gameplay to make these small purchases. A lot of this tends to be cosmetic changes only, don't affect the gameplay. But when people are so into their games, they care about how their character looks. For me personally, for your average game, I don't care about that at all. I hate games based on microtransactions. This is my personal feeling. But my feeling about that is completely different in virtual reality. When you actually feel like you are in the shoes, you are the person in the game, not just, oh, that's my character, look at his cool thing, look at her cool thing. It's like, look at my cool thing. Like, look at this gun I got, look at this armor I earned. You can actually, for most of you in this room have probably had the opportunity to don a head-mount display and look down and see your body. And when you feel like that is you, it is this completely different emotional experience. So if I can buy something in a game and put it on what feels like my actual feet, buy some really cool armor or earn some really cool armor. For me, even a person who hates the idea of microtransactions, it's in VR, it's a completely different world, and I think that this is going to be a big factor, customizing yourself, your virtual self, as opposed to just your character who's on the screen. It's actually you in this case. So I think that the world of VR fashion can be very big.
Fascinating.
So, sorry, I agree with that, but was that the question?
Yes, it's a cue. My job is not to dictate. My job is to prompt. I love this answer better than my question.
Okay,
We actually have a demo of real VR fashion. I co-designed this with my friends at Academia. This is a prototype of a hoodie called the Visor. And the visor has a mesh over the ears, so that I can wear a head-mounted display and headphones and have my hoodie in my head. It also has cable routing in the front and for the Oculus Rift in the back. Blair has the second version of this. Blair's version has this very special feature. Why don't we zip up your hoodie? So as you can see, I can wear my Rift while wearing my hoodie. Yeah. I want to talk about this for a second. So, can you see Blair?
Yes.
So you can probably see into a Rift. It too has the mesh that goes over the eyes. This is fashion interacting with technology, interacting with fashion. By the way, that is what everybody thinks of us when we're wearing these today. All right, you have to realize no one has adjusted to the aesthetic of virtual reality. Aesthetics matter. Function matters. We're debuting, so this is the first time. The fact this hoodie visor will be coming to Kickstarter within 1 month. So thanks for that memo. VR input. I have long worked in the input device space. In fact, I've had to make sure I don't get tangled. Thanks to the stem, I'm no longer getting tangled. Also, we've got stumps, which many of you see here, and I also work with a company called Notch. Notch started a Kickstarter, and it ran for 3 days, and I immediately pulled them down so they would have an awesome CES 2 weeks later, because they weren't going to hit their goal. It's just a little Notch is a motion tracking system. Stumps is a control system for VR. What do you guys think, given the STEM and kind of the emergence of a diverse range of devices? How do you feel about more input devices on Kickstarter? Have we solved the problem? We have more problems to solve. You start.
I think this is one of the hardest problems that has yet to be solved. There are a lot of people doing a lot of interesting things right now. I think STEM is really interesting. Leap just released something where you can clip it on the Oculus. The sensors are at eye distance from each other, and you can do video feed through. I think that's pretty interesting too. no one has really solved the problem of, you know, when you're in a virtual environment, you want to interact with things naturally, you want to touch them, and nothing has force. And so you either have to learn how to interact in a completely new way without that tactile feedback, or we need to figure that problem out.
Will, tell us something about tactile feedback.
So that's a pretty well-placed question there. So what we're trying to do is make it so there's something there when you reach out, and what we're doing is a pretty good approximation. People refer to what we're doing as input, but it's really solve the input problem, solve the ability to gesture around naturally, and then provide feedback once you're out there. And it's a pretty challenging thing, but what we're doing is a pretty good approximation right now as a stand-in for the almost like the God or the perfect interaction, like you reach out and things are just magically there. Things are placed into the real world as if they're in your virtual world. So
if you had to say, you know, what is going to grab the imagination of the Kickstarter community in haptic feedback and input devices? What do you think is missing, or what do you think can be done to still grab that imagination?
So it's kind of interesting. There's this whole evolution that's going on right now where HMDs are coming in place. There's lots of tracking solutions right now. People that have HMDs are doing their own tracking solutions. And as this kind of solidifies, what we'll realize is there's nothing out there, right? And it's going to create this drive, this desire to complete this immersive experience. Obviously, audio has been there for a long time. Now people are really focused on 3D audio, right? So that can be better. The reaching out into the world and feeling nothing there is this huge problem. And the problem from a market standpoint and from a marketing standpoint for Kickstarter to be broadly appealing in Kickstarter and not just sell to each other that's very close to the community is to have that message really get across in that they don't even know that they're missing it yet because it's the visuals that they see first. It's easy to communicate, but it's a problem that they don't even realize that they have yet because just the notion of reaching out, they're used to this notion of lawnmower man, right? It's all communicated through the visuals, right? So you gotta get that right first, and then people will realize that there's a market.
Blair, you're writing a VR game, and as I go through these various VR demos, I'm always slightly disappointed by the motion paradigm. It's always missing a little something. What do you feel like is missing as you write your games, as you talk to people? Is there something in the paradigm that you want that you don't?
Well,
wasn't going to be easy.
For my particular game, I tried to plan it out so that wouldn't be an issue. A lot of people, like while I was running the Kickstarter campaign, are backers of these other hardware devices, and asking me if I will support these new devices that aren't yet proven. There's no SDKs for, and saying that they won't put money towards my campaign unless I support this other hardware. I don't care. Sorry. Like if that's how you're gonna be. Like I don't have time to do all of this, right? And it might not even be possible, right? Like a lot of these companies don't have SDKs yet. So,
but if you could have something that you don't have,
like it has.
Is there anything that like you're saying, I wish people were able to do?
Well, like a really great final solution for haptics and motion control combined would be great, but I think these in-between stages are something that a lot of people are just going to ignore and wait for, like the Oculus of control, right? Like this works, it's cheap, we're done. If I could step into a haptic suit and have like pneumatic stoppers and all that stuff for a good price, then okay, let's go, give me the SDK. But I'm not really too excited about a lot of the hardware solutions.
Will, do you want to close with it?
Yeah, it's kind of really interesting because the people in this room, we want to engage all the senses, we want the perfect solution, but there's this kind of this well-known chicken and egg problem of to go with a platform, you need the software and content to go with it to drive sales, and everybody really, content is king. You need to have a great experience. And part of that is the hardware, but right now all of the hardware projects that are out there, it's very interesting enough, all they're doing, and Matt's doing a great job with this at Stomps, you're emulating the current input paradigm. And what we need to be able to do as a community is somehow leapfrog this whole thing. And if you really want to reach out and feel something there, that's actually going to be a fundamental leap from where we are right now with technology that's based on game pads that's 20-year-old paradigm.
For me, it's about, there's kind of an equation I go through when I'm thinking about supporting a piece of hardware. What usefulness will it add to my game? How many people want it? How much? What's the cost in terms of hours or dollars that's going to take to add it? If that equation comes out favorably, then I'm going to add support for it. If it doesn't, I'm going to wait.
So if you guys are thinking of doing input-based Kickstarters, think hard, simple, affordable, intelligent, solves problems, and
Get an SDK out there.
get an SDK out there. Problem with SDKs is you have to write to it.
And free hardware for developers.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially for indie developers.
Send me so while you're at it.
That's pretty all of us.
So again, this is a meeting for the people who want to disrupt all the people who aren't in the room, right? So you're allowed to be subversive. So I expect some subversive questions. And, oh, thank goodness, I just went back. All right. I've gotten really excited about immersive imaging. And I've got to be really careful because I think immersive imaging is a really exciting emerging area, and we're only beginning to tap it. I got really excited about the center camera on Kickstarter, which won't make it, but wow, was that a cool innovation. It uses the OmniVision image sensor processor that accepts 4 HD streams and enables consumer-grade multi-camera aggregator. This is a neat area. Of course, we have people who are putting together neat solutions where you can hack together cameras. We have our friends at Jaunt who are pioneering stereoscopic grade immersive content. One of the neat things about immersive content is it's hard to write a game, design a scene, 3D model stuff, and the technologies for doing that, we're all chasing them, but it's a big pain in the butt. Video, once it works, once you're able to ingest 360 or VR video, wow, what an exciting opportunity. I'm also really stoked about the impact of 4K imaging on 360 because it allows no stitching. The problem is it requires fancy optics or either glass. But I'm super excited about that. I also believe that immersive imagery is going to be awesome for the smartphone paradigm. Your smartphone has poor frame rates for any game. Face it, it's just not a great game platform. People don't play first-person shooters on 360 stereoscopic movies. They got plenty of juice for that. Super exciting opportunity. So I see this tied together in a thread. And then there's the content. What are people going to do with all that content? I don't know that you can write Kickstarters on it, but what a neat green field. Let's think still about crowdsourced opportunity. Any thoughts on immersive imaging? Is the bar too high right now for Kickstarters that want to do immersive? I don't know. Any thoughts?
Well, just going back a little bit to what you said about content, whether or not that would be Kickstartable. I think it will be. Maybe Kickstarter itself as its own website isn't the best place for that kind of content funding, but another crowdsourcing website might be. But I know that there are a number of people out there already who are content creators. They're not tech people; they're just people who want to tell stories. And I know that they are looking for the first end-to-end solution to make that easy. And some of these companies up here are working on providing that solution. But these are people who are going to have innovative ideas. They're going to be doing experimental stuff. There was a recent one that we saw where it was a kind of a tour of Japan. You put on the Oculus Rift, and you could look all around Japan where they carried the screen with a 3D camera. It's a really cool experience, and it's one of the most interesting demos that I've seen, and that other people that I showed to, they said that's one of the neatest things. So something about that live action nature they really like. So I wouldn't go right to saying there's not going to be opportunity to crowdfund really interesting experiences like that. I know that the guys doing the Experience Japan thing are looking into that, and as somebody who's seen what they want to do, they say we want to raise this much money to turn this into a full narrative experience. I would be in for it.
That's awesome.
So it's maybe just a little bit of a sideways pitch here, but you know, I've been thinking about this as it's a VR media experience, right? That's really what we're talking about here. And ultimately, we thought in terms of the haptic side, up here we're going to stay away from that completely because we thought that you really wanted to be interactive and experience. And one of the guys that's working with me, you actually put together a pretty passive experience, like a roller coaster. Turns out that actually as a media experience, it's really fantastic. And so I think that there's actually some opportunities for even going beyond this for the media, the virtual reality media experience, and again, really engaging all the senses here.
I think the moment you can get a VR trailer that people can experience on their headsets to a large enough number of people, you will see a VR movie get funded. And I think that'll happen, and not as long as people might expect.
Blair, you're actually writing a cinematic game.
Yeah, I think I haven't had a chance to try out John's thing yet. I'm not sure if they're exhibiting here. But I don't really see the 360 video thing being a final solution for this kind of thing, because with things like the Unity engine, you can integrate 360 video, but have more to it, right? Like have true stereoscopic things and interactivity that you can't have with a purely video experience. I think for as far as like passive experiences, like watching a concert, or even using it as a security system, where your guard has the Rift on, looking over a crowd, right? And but you still need interactivity with that. You need to be able to point at a person for the guard on the street to go run to, kind of thing.
So I'm going to riff on it just for a second. What do you want to continue?
But I think there's interesting opportunities for some hybrid there. Like think about like the theme park of somewhere in between this very interactive video virtual reality game experience as opposed to the very passive media viewer experience. I think that's maybe where one of the really big, awesome hybrids that come out with this kind of world like what you're talking about.
I think there's a lot of problems associated with shooting video 360 degrees and doing it right, though. You can't, your editing process has to change completely. You can't do cuts because it's very jarring in VR. You can't do a lot of post effects you need to do, or like color correction. Your crew can't be there. They're like, on a movie set, there's like, 50-year-plus people milling around in the background. These are problems that I suppose people could surmount eventually, but I don't see the point. I think the technology for game engines and things like that will eventually, with 3D scanning and stuff, pass.
So let's refine it. So I call this Convergence, an amazing software. AR, VR, CP, and JIG 3D mapping are going to start coming together in some ways that, as you were just saying, are going to be much more interesting solutions than just, say, taking a 360 video or just having a game engine. When you're able to drop those things in together and start to fuse those, you're going to have a new generation software experience. And I personally think that it's almost cliche to say that the convergence of these things is going to create really cool experiences. It's going to create some really, really cool experiences. And the notion today in augmented reality is that I've got a marker on a table in a magazine, I hold a mobile phone, and I see a 3D object that spins around. But what I really want is just to look at real space and have that interact with gamified assets or actually be a game, right? This is going to be cool. This is hard because this involves all of the things that we've been talking about. 3D data, it involves AR, it involves traditional VR, it involves gaming, and it involves bringing them together in really neat experiences. And they're going to blow our mind. And I think, when I think about Oculus, I think they actually get that they see this expansive opportunity in software experience. And I think we're just at the dawn of it. You guys are already going, so keep going.
I'm scared of that, actually. I think that's pretty dangerous. That people running after zombies in the streets, it's like everyone's on acid all of a sudden.
If Blair's afraid, society's going to have to move a long way before we're all there.
Well, but why not do that with a really good game engine that looks hyper real? Why bother with this dangerous layer of meat space? I have to run out into a street and get hit by a car when I could be sitting at my desk completely safe.
Well, to your point though, maybe that is just a photorealistic video that one took of a scene, and then you just drop in a game there. And that may not even be a fully 3D rendered scene. It may be this fusion of 360 video and some game assets to cheat.
Just scan the area into the computer. I don't understand why,
Well, but you did
it's almost the same thing with the hardware. Why do we need this jigsaw intermediate thing that people are only going to half like, right? Just skip it. Skip right to the good stuff.
Well, I think that this kind of brings up the question of AR versus VR, and Blair kind of sounds like, I don't know if I'm misinterpreting you correctly, but are you saying that AR is just kind of useless and it should just all be VR?
Oh no, not at all. But for things like a zombie game or something where you're running around the streets, I don't think that's a good idea. But for ad execs and stuff, I think it's great. It's like you're walking down the street and you look at the billboard and it changes based on what you're into. I can't really think of any really great uses for it for myself though at home.
Well, so to speak of Convergence and AR and VR, so I'm big into VR. I'm also a Google Glass user. It's not quite AR at this point, but it is kind of getting wearable technology on its way. And if I could more easily interact with I use my smartphone all the time, you probably do, constantly getting it out, looking down at it, that's a pain. And if I could have that stuff kind of seamlessly be part of the environment or there with me when I need it and not there when I don't, without having to reach in my pocket, that'd be great. So in terms of Convergence, maybe we're going to get to a point where you have a device that can do complete VR, where your entire vision is taken over, and then you flip something up or flip something off, and now you have your AR glasses, and it's kind of all in one device. And I do, for this particular picture, this may not be applicable, and the reason you would want AR, but I think there's lots of reasons that you put out there, and I think we'll see a combination of this AR, VR stuff, and we already are, but I think we'll see it at a high level coming soon. And particularly it's an interesting time because virtual reality is an excellent test bed for augmented reality interfaces because you can simulate, we don't have the hardware to do the stuff that AR is concepted to do, but the vision is there. But we can do it inside of a simulated environment. We don't need these incredible displays that's created and these impeccable computer learning algorithms and image algorithms to do all that in a simulated environment. So we can already get to work on what is certainly going to be one of the complicated problems with augmented reality, which is the interface. We can start on that now before the hardware exists, which I think is really cool.
I do a few things. One of which I'll hint at today. The other one is already out and about. Introduced it months ago. I think that augmented reality is important. I think it's traditionally solved the wrong problems. The augmented reality of things is relatively boring. The most interesting social atoms that we can augment are other people. The problem is that facial recognition has been traditionally thought of as the right solution to social AR. I created dynamic visual signaling to work on this specific problem. The broader problem that I think represents an opportunity in AR is advanced computer vision for distance. So one of the challenges in today's smartphone is you can only get a 1080p stream if you're an app. But that's got a big sensor on it. Theoretically, you would want a high resolution sub-region inside the broader context of a fast-moving stream. And the APIs for this don't exist today, soon. And that's going to enable me to decode faces and objects at greater distance as the compute capability of the phone gets contextual kinds of feature decode. So one of the areas that I'm super excited about is computer vision. And I think that as we see mobile APIs improve, this is a very general mobile use case, we're going to see that explode. And I think it's for this reason that the mobile phone is a really important platform for VR, because it's got a camera on it so that it can do AR too, and it can make phone calls. And so, again, what I'd like to emphasize is the future opportunities that you're going to see on Kickstarter are going to be ones that bring these things together in ways that are really interesting and super useful. Cast AR, I think, is a fantastic example of AR technology applied to solve kind of a VR experience. Really interesting. Any thoughts on computer vision or AR that you'd like to make? Any thoughts?
I think like as the technology improves to do these sorts of things, we'll have also advances in robotics and stuff like that. So why not give that power to a separate agent other than yourself?
Right? A drone.
Yeah, like a robot. Tell you what it thinks is important rather than constantly having all of this information in your face.
You know, I think that's a really good point. The future of the sensor for a head-mounted display experience, maybe your drone, maybe a robot, right? Maybe you want to bring in that stream. And so it's really interesting now to think about the dissociation. It's not just about your computer experience, it's not just about Unity, it's about pulling in streams from other devices that are fun. And, you know, the recent launch of the AR drone that has a beautiful, you know, semi-immersive 180-degree field of view camera. I think really points to a future where, you know, people are going to be using head-mounted displays, and I really like that announcement because it made this reality happen. All right, we're still doing great on time, so we're going to hop forward a bit more, and I'll sit down and talk about Convergence. I want to talk a little bit about presence. There are still some really big problems to solve in virtual reality. Those problems being, how do I make it not monkeys? And there are people who are much smarter than me who think about this all the time. But certainly, motion and sensation, intersecting technology, intersecting the mind, is still a rich opportunity space because it's still such a broken problem, still a difficult problem. And there are these huge challenges of sensation, ergonomics, motion control, displays, multi-factor input, on and on and on. I mean, look at poor Paul. Does he look comfortable? Does that guy look like he's not in a death trap? And that guy, these are hard problems. They're fertile for crowdsourced innovation. They're fertile for disruption. I think they've got a rich future. One of the things, another surprise, this is an unsurprise, is that I've created a company called Presence to work on these problems. And I'm announcing this today. It will be a crowdsourced project. I think everybody here is interested in VR, and I think you'll all want. And so I've been working very hard on this. I'm proud of it. And over the course of the next couple months, I'll be able to say a lot more. But I think Presence represents a real opportunity in crowdsourced innovation. So much so that I'm about to bet my future. Do you guys want to say anything else about presence and natural motion?
I think it's hugely important to have national input. I mean, presence, I think, is a state-defined term at this point. The way I really understand presence is the difference between immersion for me and presence is immersion is kind of feeling like you're in a different room, maybe. Put on, let's say, Oculus Rift Day 1, you can feel that. Your brain is like, when you turn your head this way and it moves appropriately, it says, okay, this is my new space. Presence is a deeper feeling. It's a feeling that reaches your, not just your visual, audio, and obvious cues, it reaches your subconscious things that you're not even necessarily aware of what your body is. Your heart beats, but you're not really thinking about it. There are other visual, audio, tactile cues like that that you're not aware of, but if your body's missing them, like if your body's missing its heartbeat, you would notice pretty quickly. So the difference between, for me, immersion and presence is that feeling of just immersion is just kind of looking, it looks and sounds like so on. So presence is this deeper thing that is harder to reach, and we're still just scraping at the edge of it. Now I don't know exactly how you're using presence, because if I go on a big rant about it, I just take my turn.
These are just cues for discussion. We're just here to have a good time.
Well, so to go on
try to inform our audience.
To go on to the natural input side of things, I think it's really important for both immersion and presence. It is, I would say, between when I'm using a virtual reality experience that is just vision based and I'm controlling it with my fingers and mouse on keyboard, or I'm sorry, keyboard and mouse with my fingers or the gamepad. I think that it is a twofold increase in the immersion factor when you're using natural forms of input, motion controls where you can reach in and see your arms moving like they should be. In the same way that our eyes are such an important part of convincing us that we're somewhere else, seeing our own bodies is also very important. You look down and your avatar is completely static in your head, and your body does not move at all. It is a completely weird sensation and very immersion breaking. So I think that is hugely important for VR. So this space is right for those sorts of solutions.
Do we want to talk, or do we want to let them comment? Do you want to make any final remarks before we let them ask?
Yeah, just add on to that. I think part of the problem is the brain is used to, if I start moving my arm, I intend to move it, my brain sees it moving, I intend to move it farther, I keep seeing, so there's this feedback loop going on. And if I look down at my body and nothing's moving, and it doesn't match up with what my brain is expecting to have happen, that's going to break that sense of presence. The brain is kind of confused at why this is happening, because it hasn't seen something like that before. So the idea should be that when I intend to affect something, that there's some kind of constant feedback loop that I'm getting that shows, yeah, I'm getting closer to affecting it, okay, now I'm affecting it, now it's doing what I expected it to do. So as long as you want to kind of keep the brain in the loop the whole time, that'll help keep them inside the experience rather than realizing they're actually outside of it.
I actually disagree with some of this. The motion control thing and having the ability to see your own hand in the game, I think it's amazing, but we're not there yet. And for me, picking up, whether it be, I'm not going to mention any company's names, controllers, it's not completely one-to-one, and it feels awkward. If I try to pick up this pop can, it's not like I just reach in, pick it up, without even thinking about it. It's more of like a fumble. My wrist gets it sideways, and I'm trying to get the right angle on it. That breaks immersion for me much faster than even not having a body at all. I think your brain is pretty elastic and will adapt to situations. Like, you have dreams about crazy things all the time. It's completely natural in a dream. You just have to let it happen, kind of thing, right? So, and like you said, missing sort of cues, like looking down and seeing your respiration at a different rate than how you're actually breathing. That immediately your brain's like, nope, wrong. It would almost be better off to just look down and see nothing. I think anyway.
Yeah, and one of the other things I was going to say too, it kind of relates a little bit to what you're saying, a little bit to what James was saying, is like what makes presence work, I think, is a little bit different depending upon the type of interaction you're shooting for. I think in terms of temporal coherence, things that happen at the right time, things that happen enough like what you expect. I come from the world where you make the hardware as good as possible and you fix it in software. And the problem that you're just talking about fumbling with a Hydra. I know that's what you're talking about. And when you reach out, this is a good opportunity. You're fixing the software, and no one's really done a great job of this yet, but when you reach out, you don't allow the person to fail. You pretty much know that they don't want to go and fumble around and slap the cannabis drive, right?
We're missing that.
Well, and then I guess also in terms of another opportunity, the mobile space is really huge. You could expand AR and VR into it, but there's these compute problems, and then the added latency, and that will kind of degrade the overall experience. And there's a huge opportunity there as well to kind of expand into. But I think it's like you have to have like this order of precedence thing going on where, okay, well, I need to have it appear enough one-to-one that it seems right. Like if I know my intent is to reach there, maybe the tracking is saying I'm going over here, I just don't let it happen. Because, anyways, it's this whole layering of what should be done, and there's great opportunities there, I think.
I think though, as a developer, it's really hard to understand what the upper limit of capability is on a given. So we'll start working with it and we'll say, okay, are we doing the UI wrong? Are we doing the UX wrong? Are we not providing the constant feedback correctly? Or is this hardware not capable of providing the kind of input we need to do this naturally? And it takes a whole lot of work to even figure out that question.
So I have a question for hardware and software. Then. Which would you rather? Say in a game like Technolust, I want to pick up that pop can. I can just look at it and hit a button and it's picked up. Or would you rather have, like from the user's perspective, to maybe have a hand reach out and grab it and this animation that won't ever 100% match it unless we get perfect one-to-one with haptic feedback. Which would you rather? Like as a developer, I'd much rather have them just
So I think what's really missing is the middle ground, right? Because it's hardware folks kind of going, here's my piece of hardware, deal with it, right? On your end, it's kind of like, I just want it to work perfectly, and I want to reach out and that would be great. And there's this middle ground that actually one of the things that we're really trying to do is have an SDK that does what you want it to do, and then understand use cases. Because the way it's going to work best is if you go one at a time, understand that, and then you can kind of generalize from there. But having focus, I think that's probably one of the things that Simon didn't necessarily say a ton of, but he said a little bit up front is all this stuff requires focus to have a great experience, and that's what's going to make everything explode.
So, it's an honor to be here in front of you with this panel. So thank you. I'd love to take the opportunity now to take any questions from the audience. Anything is fair, just keep it choppy so we can have it. Good.
You guys spend some time talking about your individual Kickstarters, what you've learned, and basically some of the others you share with the rest of the community.
All right, I'll start. The most important thing you can do is not mess up the overall structure and have a great idea. And if you avoid those two mistakes, it's a big part of the battle. I use KickTrack to analyze other similar projects, look at other projects that are similar to yours, because it's that audience thing, it's real. And you can only understand the audience by how it's responded to stimuli. And you can see that using Google. So listen and learn and talk to smart people who've done it before. And it takes a lot of work.
So I'm the only one up here that didn't have some sort of crowdfunding thing. I'm a journalist, and so I'm the guy that sees exciting projects like all these people have done and likes to write about them and tell others about it. So from my perspective, when I'm looking at a Kickstarter, one of the biggest things for me is seeing this level of professionalism, excuse my language, of having your shit together. So your Kickstarter video is your open, it's your first impression. Like I said, there's only one chance to make your first impression. It is your opening remarks to the world about your project. And when I see iffy stuff like bad editing, bad sound, bad lighting, even though I'm not expecting, let's say, a software developer to do those things great, I expect them, if they're the person that is going to be running this campaign, getting this money, delivering product, a lot of logistics here, I expect them to be the kind of person that can make that stuff happen, even if they're not the ones that are capable of doing it. They have to know how to make it happen. And that, to me, you know, is this really important communication of whatever needs to be done, I'm going to make it happen, whether I build it myself or I bring in other people to make it happen right. And that leads me to say, these guys are serious, they're going to deliver their promise, and they're going to make something good.
For my particular project, like working, I planned it out pretty intensively. April is the best time to do a game Kickstarter because everyone's getting their tax returns and has money to blow. The community pretty much, like the VR community at large, pretty much carried the entire project, obviously, because they're the only people with the hardware to play it right now. Reddit and press is extremely important. Reddit, probably a third of my backers came directly from Reddit.
We do have a very Reddit-friendly project. Now, VR in general is very Reddit-friendly, but people on Reddit love cyberpunk.
Oh yeah. No, well, that's something I thought as well, right? And I hit the cyberpunk side.
So it's part of the design.
Yeah. So I planned stuff out, and obviously you can look at other similar projects, even if they're not specifically what you're doing. Like I've looked into other cyberpunk Kickstarters. They all seem to do really well. So that's a good place to jump off. I think in the future, when people all have this hardware, the important things to do will be to make a demo available, which I did, or have the trailer or the Kickstarter video viewable in the hardware, just to give them a real sense of place and presence, if not possible. 30 frame a second video. Kickstarter's codecs would be bad too. But, yeah.
Well, I'll chill because I know we're running out of time. The counterpart to the, maybe the April's the best time to run it. I can tell you before Christmas is not the best time to run it. It's also not the best time. Yeah, it's not the best time to run during the release of 2 new consoles. You shouldn't hold anything back. We thought, geez, every Kickstarter campaign fizzles, or at least your demand goes down. And so we thought we could get it going again. You've got everything that's great about your stuff, you need to communicate it up front. You need to be very focused on what you're delivering. And if you have too complex of a message, you have problems like we had, or like the Make VR guys, the people weren't quite sure what to do with it. And then the last thing is of course, you need to have something that works turnkey or works in combination with other things that people already have. It's emulating the input pad, or it's everything that shows up and it just works on the box.
So for me, I learned a lot of things during my Indiegogo campaign. One of the first things I learned was, again, like you said at the beginning, to pick the right goal. My goal was definitely way too low. I could have made, I could have raised more money if I had just picked a higher goal. Another problem was, again, I started beginning of December, and the donations really dropped off around Christmas. A lot. You could tell that in the data, so that's not the best time. But I'm actually glad I extended the date a bit past that into January, which was a good decision. And then some of the other things I learned, again, press, Reddit, social media, Facebook, posting on forums. I mean, there's a lot you can do to get your project out there. And so I think the biggest thing I would say is to plan it as much as possible, but a lot of times you just can't wait. And if that happens to be the beginning of December, and I still definitely don't regret starting it then. It was still a good decision. So
I should say, it's a huge amount of work too. People told me that, and I was like, with all your smiley faces and your exclamation points, and be upbeat and respond to everything, everything, every Reddit post, every message. You get tons of private messages through Kickstarter. Some of them you might think are spam, turn out to be rich investors from Dubai that are legit. You have to respond to everything. Every comment that you get on your Kickstarter page, try to address everybody. Even if they're just saying, this is amazing, say thank you. That stuff really helps. But it's super time consuming, and it gets a bit annoying as well.
That's so important. For us, people want to translate our game into a bunch of languages. People want to distribute it in other countries. So responding to everything is hugely important for us.
So with that, we will say thank you. So thank you very much. We're all very friendly people. We'd love to talk to you. If you want to talk about various projects, anything that's been announced, anything coming, these are great people. We love to talk. Thank you.